Hi, I'm Bob Herbert. We've just watched my film, Against All Odds, The Fight for a Black Middle Class. And I'm here with my good friend and colleague, Carol Jenkins, the host of Black America here on CUNY TV. A special presentation of Carol's program was the documentary, The Conscience of America, Birmingham's Fight for Civil Rights. We're going to talk about what it was like to make these two films and a little bit about our lives, the state of race relations in the United States, and whatever else might come up. Carol, welcome.
Oh, Bob, thanks so much.
Oh, I appreciate you joining me.
Thank you for that documentary. Just so powerful.
Oh, I appreciate that. So, you know, that film was not originally my idea. That distinction goes to Bill Moyers. He's the president of a foundation called the Schumann Center, and I was a trustee of that foundation. And we were talking about what was happening to the black middle class in the wake of the recession and the housing meltdown several years ago. And so he asked me if I wanted to do a documentary on that. And I hadn't done a documentary before, and I was reluctant.
Well, you did it so well. It was amazing, right?
Well, they were going to finance it. And you know, there actually was a couple of reasons why I wanted to do it. One of the reasons was I was tired of hearing that blacks were lagging behind whites economically and so forth because we didn't work hard enough, or we weren't smart enough, or you know, whatever the excuses allegedly were. When in fact, I wanted to show that many blacks were struggling because we've been basically deliberately put behind the eight ball, you know, for so many decades. And then I also wanted to show, so we showed the history of the discrimination and that sort of thing, and I wanted to show how that history and the absolute terror that's been inflicted on black Americans for hundreds of years, how that resonated in today's society. But then, you know, I went back and looked at your documentary again, and I thought that there was like they're two different subjects, but there was like an emotional overlap there. So for folks who haven't seen your documentary, tell us a little bit about what it was, what it was like to make it, and why you wanted to make that film.
Well, it was a labor of love, of family. I'm from Alabama, born in Lowndes County, Alabama, then when I was born a few years ago, and now one of the poorest counties in the country. My grandfather was a farmer. We come from, my mother was one of 15 children, a farming family in the 20s, 30s, 40s in Lowndes County, Alabama. And I said there are two things that I didn't have as a child, you know, that everybody gets shocked about. I didn't have shoes until I moved to New York when I was about 3 or so, and we didn't have indoor plumbing. And that tells you what, when I speak of poverty, it was not that unusual for farming families then. You know, we had a pump in the yard. My grandmother, you know, would swirl chickens around, you know, and we would bathe in the corrugated tubs. And so that was my beginning. I wanted to talk a little bit about that because that's Lowndes County just outside of Montgomery. But Birmingham, which was really the crucible of the civil rights movement. My family was engaged in that. You know, I've written a book about my uncle who owned the motel where Martin Luther King had headquarters, the A.G. Gaston Motel.
Who was an integral part of your documentary.
Right. Well, he was one of the first black multimillionaires in the country, and did it all in Birmingham, Alabama. Never left, never, you know, spread beyond that. And in that segregated society, created a parallel universe of insurance, banking, apartments, the motel, which was one of the finest in of the first black hotels, you know, that blacks could actually stay in this country. So that, and I think most people remember the visual images of the dogs lunging at children in the protests, and the use of
fire hoses.
The fire hoses, you know, as we say, you know, in our book and in the documentary, strong enough to strip the bark off a tree, and that's what they were using against children and other protesters in Birmingham. So,
I mean, one of the things I wanted to ask you was how your uncle was able to be so successful in a city that was so hideously racist as Birmingham was at that time.
Right. Well, his mother had been the cook for a very wealthy family. So he grew up living over the horse stable of this wealthy family that owned one of the department stores in Birmingham, which when Martin Luther King came to Birmingham and the whole fight was over desegregating department stores, my uncle had grown up in that system. They all knew him, but he had his success and created this parallel universe during the height of segregation. And that is what he did. You had a black world in Birmingham and you had a white world. Those two worlds never intersected. Even after my uncle was a multimillionaire, he could not walk in the front door of the restaurants. He would have to go to the back window and take out whatever he wanted from a restaurant as well in Birmingham. So viciously racist, segregated city.
So you were talking about some of these atrocities, the fire hoses, the dogs. There also was that terrible bombing at the 16th Street Baptist Church where the 4 little girls were killed. Now, I had a conversation, just apart from all of this, several months ago with a couple of teenagers in Brooklyn who didn't know about that bombing and that those four girls were killed. And I was just surprised because it's so, I mean, we know, we're so
part
familiar.
Of our,
yeah.
Sure.
But for those who are not that familiar with it, tell us a little bit about, tell us what happened.
Well, it's the kind of savagery that is happening again in our world, and I know we want to talk about that too, that we may have had a respite period, but we now are fully back into that kind of savagery, where if you are black, if you are Jewish, if you are Asian, you stand, or if you are Hispanic, Latino, you stand a chance of being assaulted, murdered. There are all of these opportunities for debasing you that took place in the 16th Street Baptist Church. And this was 4 little girls who were getting ready for Sunday school, and some fully grown white men in Birmingham, Alabama, set off pipe bombs and killed
the church.
In the church, as they were getting ready for Sunday school. So it was it was one of the things that the dogs lunging at the protesters, they used to call Birmingham Bombingham because they would set off bombs in black homes just regularly. So it was one of the things that changed the idea of segregation and this hatred that goes with it when the country could experience that by means of television. I don't think that we would have made it the progress that we made it if there weren't television cameras there to tell those stories.
I couldn't agree more about that. Television was so important, and those kinds of stories just weren't in front of ordinary Americans in those days till the TV cameras showed it. But, so in your documentary and in mine, we show some of these atrocities that occurred, and there were many, many more. I mean, it was actually a reign of terror. And it has lasted so long. You talk about the attacks that still occur. Talk a little bit, you and I are not psychologists, but talk a little bit about what this kind of terror, unrelieved terror, the impact it has on African Americans and has had on so many generations.
Right. Well, some of the research says that our DNA has changed because of this long reign of terror, that our cells are actually different because we have experienced this ongoing generational trauma. And I think that and I want you to talk about this too, because so much of the problems that we have today are because this terror passed through generations. You're talking about the black middle class. We're looking at the statistics that show that children who grew up in the middle class, black children, are falling out of the middle class. Some of that is due to the poor education that they get. They're not able to find good jobs. But it's not only Black America. I interviewed Nick Kristof and Cheryl Woodun recently, and they have a new book out about Nick's hometown, a farming town in Northwest America, where the opioid crisis and bad education has also had in white America this tremendous generational decay so that's what we're looking at now, where wide swaths of people, white, black, all, are suffering from what I love is what you call the deterioration of our country.
Right.
I'd love for you to talk a little bit about, you've written about it in Losing Our Way, one of your books. So powerful when you talk about the bridge collapse on I-35
right.
as a symbol of what's happening in our country.
Yeah, we have this deterioration almost across the board. I see these standards being lowered. So we can't even maintain the physical infrastructure in the United States. You've mentioned the problem that we've had with education, especially in poorer neighborhoods. So kids will get a great public school education if they're from wealthy families
Right.
and they live in wealthy communities, because the families can contribute to the schools, because the schools are based, the financing is based on the tax base and that sort of thing, whereas kids who are in lower economic, in the lower economic strata, they don't get the same kind of education. And you mentioned Nick Kristof. He's, an op-ed columnist
Sure.
at the New York Times, former colleague of mine, and Cheryl is his wife, and,
Right.
and they've done remarkable work on this sort of thing. And what's happening, as you point out, is that now white families who are struggling economically are encountering the same kinds of
Precisely.
problems that African Americans were encountering decades ago, because there's fundamentally an economic basis to these problems. It's not like there's something genetically wrong with people. It's very difficult to establish a decent standard of living when you're coming up against these obstacles that are so difficult to overcome. When I talked about the middle class in the documentary, I made the point that there's a couple of things that are so important if you're going to establish a middle class standard of living. One, you have to have a decent job. You have to have good employment. Quality education is obviously important, but also what's very important is buying that first home. That's how most families in this country, over decades and probably even centuries, have begun to establish wealth. They buy that first family home, the value of the property appreciates, the kids get a decent education, and then that wealth gets built upon. African Americans have been discriminated in employment historically throughout the whole history of this
Still,
country.
right,
We
and
talked
increasingly.
increasingly. We talked a few minutes ago about the problems with education, and there's been horrendous discrimination in terms of housing, so that it became very difficult, even if you could afford that first home, to purchase the first home because of discrimination, because of redlining, because of government obstacles to obtaining insurance and that sort of thing. So it becomes like extremely difficult, and yet, so many people have overcome those challenges and have been able to put together a great life in this country.
Right, I love that you illustrated that, because I was talking with a friend recently about this conversation that I was going to have with you, and she said, don't forget to mention the elite black society that existed in the 1800s and all through. So as we, have this image that all, blacks are poor and struggling, that there have been consistently communities that thrive on the basis of black colleges and the sororities and fraternities that create, again, I want to refer to it as a parallel universe in our country,
Right.
because they can't, we weren't able to function in broad society. So, within these more restricted societies that we had, almost everything was duplicated.
Well, there was a woman in my documentary who made the point. She said, so many people in this country, they see very wealthy African Americans like Oprah Winfrey or Michael Jordan, and she called them the uber rich, which of course they are.
Right.
And she said, and then of course you also see so many African Americans who are struggling. Either they're poverty stricken, or we see people who are homeless, or the people who end up in prisons and jails and that sort of thing. And she said a lot of people think those are the only two examples that we have of Black Americans that they don't really think there is a thriving Black middle class. Do you think she's correct? Do you think that it's a pretty widespread notion that there are these very successful, ultra-rich Blacks, and then that there are the Blacks who are just not doing well at all?
Again, probably due to our calling, media, which portrays us.
Those are the two that become stories.
Exactly, exactly. You know, nobody was interested in talking about the average successful, and even that's debatable about what makes you middle class. I know the home ownership and having employment, but slipping out of the middle class these days is so easy. You have one medical emergency. There are people who are homeless based only on that. You have a parent who goes into something like Alzheimer's or whatever, caring for that parent can put you totally out of the middle class. So it's the question, I mean, as you talk about the difference between the wealth and the income and the generational wealth that's been built, it's astonishing. When you talk about Black women, for instance, I think the figures are still so monetarily slim. So in other words, the wealth of a Black woman could be $5, literally $5, not using it as a metaphor.
No, literally. Literally. You can't put your hands on any money.
Right, exactly. Whereas, I mean, for white women and certainly for white men, there's an astronomical difference, hundreds of thousands.
And that's how people end up homeless. I mean, you have a medical emergency or some other disaster, and you have no cushion, you have no bank account. As you point out, you can't even put your hand on $5, and when you can't do that, the next thing you know, you find yourself out on the street. We have people, all kinds of people here in New York, families with children who are homeless. They can't afford to have places to stay.
Food insecure, which is the thing that I keep, my friends say, why are you schooling your grandchildren on this notion of food insecurity? Can't they just enjoy their childhood? I said, they have to know how lucky they are to expect meals anytime they want them, when there are millions of children in this country who are truly poor.
There are youngsters in college who are unsure of where their next meal is going to come from.
And sleeping in the classrooms too.
So you were born in Alabama, but you grew up in New York. Tell us a little bit about what your childhood was like.
Well, I had extremely hardworking parents. All of the 9 girls in my mother's family went to college because of my feminist grandfather, who educated his girls, and because of that.
At a time when it wasn't that common to have a feminist grandfather.
Can you imagine a Black Lowndes County farmer deciding my girls are going to be educated, the boys are going to stay and run the farm, And because of his decision, those 15 children had 40 children, and then all of those children are now having children. So we have a family that was built, I would say, solidly because of my grandfather's decision to give his girls an education. And so I think that that's one of the things that all of the women in my family always worked. But I had tremendously hardworking parents and grew up in Queens, and my parents ran a business together, which is not, I don't advise that for most people.
So did my parents, and I do not advise that for most people, but we'll move on.
We'll move on. We have that common experience. My folks even had to take different cars. They lived in the same place and were going to the same place. They would have to drive separately, their moment of peace or whatever their time. But
did you experience racism growing up?
Well, sure, but I didn't. Queens was not thought of to be a racist society. The one instance, and I went to Boston University, even north, and someone was asking me, all of my cousins in Alabama were sitting in at lunch counters and protesting and getting beaten up and really on the front lines of discrimination. So I didn't have that experience, but I was recruited to join a sorority on campus. And I mean, I wasn't that interested in it, but I said, okay, my roommates are doing it, sure. and had to have a delegation of the sorority members come to tell me that because I was black, I was not allowed
Oh my goodness.
to join this, you know. So that was, you know, to be a northern girl where you knew that this was going on in Alabama, Mississippi, et cetera, but in Boston on a campus of a sorority, and they were, you know, that was just how it was. There were restrictions.
Right. I grew up in Montclair in northern New Jersey, and Montclair, this was back in the 50s and 60s, and Montclair was considered a very progressive town
right.
even then. And I pretty much, I have a sister who's 4 years younger, and I didn't feel like I was the victim of racism, certainly not overt racism or anything along those lines. But when I think back,
Right.
I saw that, you know, there's a certain kind of self-delusion at work. My parents ran a couple of upholstery shops, and I remember before they were able to buy their first home, I remember them looking for apartments. And even in Montclair, they had ads that said white only, white tenancy, no blacks,
Right.
that sort of thing,
Right.
actually in the newspaper. I went to parochial school, and almost all of my classmates were white, so there were no problems at school. You know, you weren't called names or anything like that. I had all kinds of friends. But as I look back, I remember that I wasn't invited to friends' homes. There were birthday parties that I wasn't invited to. It just wasn't a normal kind of kid friendship. Sort of thing. And then I remember with my father, and I mentioned this in the documentary, he needed business loans to expand his business. The business was doing well, he wanted business, and you couldn't get a bank loan. African American business people couldn't get bank loans
Right.
In those days. But where I really personally ran into racism was when I was in the Army. I got drafted during Vietnam, and did not go to Vietnam, just sort of luck of the draw. I got sent to Korea for 14 months. But when I went out to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, I remember there were a lot of white guys from Texas, Mississippi, Arkansas, Alabama,
Right,
that sort of
right.
thing. And the black soldiers, I mean, we had to fight them all the time. I mean, they would just call you the N-word,
Right.
you know, to your face. And in those days, you were just taught. I was taught by my father and my uncle. If somebody called you that, you know, you just had to hit them. Boom. I remember being called that name with big guys, and I'm
Right.
thinking, why do I have to hit this guy, you know? But it was like a reflex
What
action.
a
But
luxury, you know? But those were the days when black children or black young people could be told to fight back. And now,
you didn't worry about guns. You
Right.
didn't worry about being killed.
and now it's like, don't fight back, don't raise your voice, do not move, you know, in those situations.
Yeah, I know. It's like really terrible. Anyway, we did fight back. But one of the things that I remember was when I had come back from Korea, and I was stationed at Fort Belvoir in Northern Virginia. And I was a sergeant by that time, so I had my own room in the barracks. And I was down there at the time that the riots broke out in Newark, and then a week later, I think it was, the riots broke out also in Detroit. And they still had Life magazine in those days. And I was looking at Life magazine in the barracks, and there was a special edition on the riots. And on the cover was this young black kid lying in the street, a pool of blood beneath his head. It looked like he was dead. He actually had been shot, but he didn't die. And it was a special edition on the riot. So I opened it up, and I'm looking at these pictures, and I see a friend of mine, a kid named Billy Furr from Montclair, coming out of a package store, a liquor store that had been looted. And he was there in the daytime the next day, and presumably he was looting it too. He was bringing something out of there. And there was a sequence of photos. Police car pulled up, Newark police car, and I'll never forget it. The cop had a yellow construction helmet on his head, a hard hat, not a police helmet, and he had a shotgun. And he got out, and my friend, so I'm looking at these pictures, my friend's running down the street. The cop fired the shotgun, missed Billy Furr, hit that young boy that was on the cover of the magazine,
Right.
then fired again and killed Billy Furr,
Oh, no.
killed my friend. And you know, watching it, in looking at it in a magazine. I mean, it was really, it was truly horrifying. And I tell that story just to give an example of the reality of the terror that has been imposed. I mean, you know, did he steal some beer or did he steal some soda out of there? Yeah, I'm sure he did. But the idea that you would kill somebody for that is just
and we've
astonishing.
had so many examples of young men and women who've been killed recently. You know,
yeah, you're making the point that this still goes on.
Oh,
it's
sure.
not the 1960s now.
Sure.
It's the 21st century.
Yeah, you know, Lucy McBath, who's a congresswoman from Georgia, who lost her son in the Loud Music case. You remember that?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
You know, a car full of, you know, terrific black kids, and you know, someone in the next car said, "Turn your music down," and they didn't do it fast enough, and he just pulled out a gun and shot them and killed her son. And she now is in Congress, ran against the NRA, you know, and on the basis of gun control in the society, you know, was one of the many mothers who, you know, we see them all the time. They now have this, you know, it's a, you know, their own gang, you know, of women who've lost their children, you know, to gunfire. So
well, you have these examples in your film.
Oh, sure.
Of present day
Right.
atrocities. You know,
Right.
this is not something in the past. And of course, we had the terrible church shooting in Charleston. I mean,
Right.
that's, you know, more people killed there even than in the Birmingham, in the 16th Street Baptist Church bombing.
Yeah.
You know, so it still goes on.
What do you think is fostering the hatred that seems to be on the rise?
Well, I think, well, certainly Donald Trump is a problem, and Donald Trump has, by his behavior and by his comments, has given the high sign to the crazies who are out there that they no longer have to mute their bigotry. You know, so it's bigotry on display, and once you allow folks to begin to display their hatred, you can't control it any longer, you know, so you're going to get these outbursts of violence and those things. But I think it's important to understand that this didn't begin with Donald Trump. I mean, I personally think Trump on these issues is a menace, but it didn't begin with Donald Trump. And I think the Republican Party itself has not taken enough blame for sort of the state of race relations in this country and other forms of bigotry. You mentioned the anti-Semitism and
Right.
attacks against Asians and that sort of thing.
Recently, I saw a headline in the newspaper about a local private school where the parents were concerned. I just saw the headline about racist activity, and it turned out not to be the black children,
Right.
which it was last year. It was the Jewish children, you know, and that there had been a rise in that kind of activity, you know, in a high school, you know, that. So you're right. I do think that the permission has been given to be as hateful as
Right.
you wish, without consequence.
Right, and if you look at what's happened with the Republican Party, long before Trump, I described the Republican Party as a safe house for bigotry, and you can go all the way back to Richard Nixon and his Southern strategy. I show in my film Lee Atwater explaining to Republicans how you can't say the N-word anymore. You know, you can't.
I remember Lee.
Yeah, exactly. So you have to figure out other ways to display
Right.
your bigotry if you want to get white votes at the expense of African Americans in this country. So there was actually a plan, and Lee Atwater was just such a big strategist for Ronald Reagan and for George H.W. Bush. So this sort of thing has been going on for the longest time, and then Trump is just, I think, more blatant in his embrace of bigotry and discrimination and hatred and that sort of thing.
So I want to ask you, because I've always admired your work. I mean, you worked at the New York Times, I mean, prestigious. What do you think of the media these days? What part do you think that we're playing? We were talking about the good old days where we had all kinds of great stories,
Right.
you know, and there was a sense of truth and reality and getting real people in the news. But I mean, what's your assessment of current day media?
I think I guess you could refer to it as the mainstream media. While there are still obviously reporters and publications who are doing terrific work on some stories, and the Times and the Washington Post come to mind. I think there have been a lot of good stories on the Trump administration and that sort of thing from both of those publications and from some others. But overall, I think standards have been lowered, just like they've been lowered across the board. They've been lowered in government. They've been lowered, I think, in industry. I think they've been lowered in media as well. And I think that we have not done a good job in this country in covering Trump, the way he has debased the presidency, in covering the Republican Party in the way that they have trampled the norms of decency and the way government is supposed to operate.
Do you agree that with some of those who say this is really our fault, it's the media's fault that they created Donald Trump and created?
I don't think I don't think you can go so far as to say it's the media's fault. What I would say is, if you're going to apply blame, then the media has to take part of the blame. I think that there are a lot you can apportion that blame in a lot of different places, and I think one of those places is where we sit in media. But I think that there are so many important stories that we just don't cover. Voter suppression is, to me, like an astoundingly important story. You've been talking about the civil rights movement, and so much of that movement was to achieve the right to vote for African Americans in this country. And the Voting Rights Act of 1965 was probably the most important piece of legislation in my lifetime. And now they're just rolling back voting rights and stepping on the gas when it comes to voter suppression and that sort of thing. Why this is not like a big story, big headlines day after day after day, I don't know. I mean, I'd like to see black people back out in the streets protesting again. They should be protesting against this administration, but protesting against the suppression of voting rights and that sort of thing. And I think that there are a lot of stories like that, not just stories having to do with race. I think that we're not covering global warming, climate change, the way it should be covered. I think that we're not covering, you mentioned infrastructure, which I did extensively in my book. I think that we're not covering our failure to maintain the nation's infrastructure, our public works, you know. So I think that we're really falling down when it comes to the press, you know, so.
So are you optimistic though?
Oh, that's so funny, because I was going to ask you. I was going to ask you that question.
Right, the reporter
at the moment,
the reporter.
yeah, exactly. CUNY has put two reporters together. We have nothing but questions, no answers.
Right. That's not our job. The answers are not our job. Right.
At least in the short to medium term, I am not optimistic. Do I think the sky is falling completely and we'll never turn things around? No, I won't say that, because I remember I once gave a speech at a college, and after the speech, a young woman came up and said, well, you know, a lot of that stuff is really depressing. And I felt terrible. I don't want to bring the kids down. But so I tried to explain to her, you know, this is not World War II. This is not the Jim Crow era. We're not going through the Holocaust, you know. So we've been through, or the Depression. We've been through eras that have been worse than what we're going through now. But what bothers me about what we're going through now is that we appear to be going backwards. Well, when we were growing up, it did seem, even when these atrocities were occurring, it did seem like we were making progress, like we were moving in the right direction. I feel now that we're moving in exactly the wrong direction. And so I think that it's going to take an enormous effort And then what I fear is that it's also going to take some kind of really big catastrophe to just grab everybody's attention before we begin to turn things around.
Well, I hope you're wrong.
I was just going to say, I know, but I fear that. But I'm going to toss the question back at you. What about you? Are you optimistic?
Well, I think we have serious, serious problems that racism, yes, we've talked about that, but just cut across the basic humanity. The fact that we have so many starving people in our country, the fact that 80% of the poor of our country are women, that most people don't take into account when they talk about the poor in some, sort of vague way. You're talking about mostly women trying to raise children, trying to feed children. We have a tremendous problem just in access to decent living. Health, the health issues, maternal health, Black maternal health. That no matter what your economic or education status, if you're a Black woman, you stand a much higher rate of losing your child or your life in pregnancy. How do we, in this country that's supposed to have, and does have in so many ways, such access to everything, how is it possible that we have created a huge part of our society that has no access to food, to housing, to education, to life-saving techniques if they need them. So I think that is the basic humanity that is an issue in our country now as I see it. I think that's the catastrophe that you're talking about, that we have so many hungry people and homeless people in this country.
It's a catastrophe, but it's not being covered. We need to get this stuff covered.
Right.
On the healthcare issue, we hear lots and lots about healthcare, but it's almost always the kind of dry story about this candidate's health care plan versus that candidate's health care plan, or it's about insurance, when in fact, I think that the press ought to be out there covering the individuals and families who are suffering because of this lack of access to health care that you're talking about. It's those kinds of dramatic stories that get the public's attention, and
I think you need to do it, because in this losing our way, the story that you tell about the woman who was on that bridge and was driving across as it started crumbling, I mean, that was fabulous storytelling, and that's what we're missing, I think, is looking in each other's eyes and telling these stories, the humanity.
I do think that that's what's missing.
Right.
But I also say, a half century in the mines is enough.
You're not going to do it.
I'm going to leave it to the younger folks. I was thinking about. I was watching the coverage of the campaigns on television, and you have the reporters look so young to me. I can't believe it.
No, it's not looking. They are young.
They are young. Right. Yeah, but you got to. We both know what it's like because we have covered these campaigns so many times. You have to run around the country chasing these candidates. Sure. They are long, long days. You wake up in the hotel. You don't know what city you're in. You're going to these conventions, So I say, you need these young folks with a lot of energy to do the stories. But I do think that you make a really good point, that the human element in these stories is what's so important, and I think that very often that's missing now.
We've lost our humanity.
Which leads me to another question for you. How did you get into this racket? How did you did you always want to become a journalist?
Well, it's so interesting. No, no.
She says no.
I did a couple of other things before. Well, when so many of us went into television, we came from. I was a speech pathologist, and I went back to journalism school.
I didn't know that.
Right. And then got a job as a runner. A secretary. I did all of that in local news before I actually. Moved up to being a researcher and a writer, and then got on the air. My first job was running scripts down a hallway for, somebody who was, writing editorials, and But it turns out, and I wasn't directly influenced by it, but both my father and my stepfather were in the business. My father was a journalist for the black press, and my stepfather published the first black magazine,
Is that right?
pictorial magazine before Ebony. He did it for the black soldiers during World War II.
Right. That's in your documentary.
Yeah, yeah.
I remember seeing that.
So it's like we think of it as in the blood, and my daughter's a writer, and all of my grandchildren are now. So it's in the DNA in some. But we always say, no, I'm going to do something else, and then we wind up, But it was a full. I feel the same way when people say to me, "Don't you miss the street reporting?" And the answer is no.
Absolutely not. I got into the newspaper business basically by accident. I always wanted to be a writer, and when I got out of the Army, I hadn't finished college. I was going to go back to college. I was looking for some advice on what to major in, and I called the Star-Ledger, which was the largest paper in New Jersey. And to give you an idea of how different things were half a century ago, I got the managing editor on the phone when I dialed the number of the Star-Ledger.
Right.
And he actually had me come down for an interview, and they hired me as a reporter. I like almost couldn't believe it. So when they threw two journalists like us onto the set, they must have known we could talk forever. But I see on the monitor that we're running out of time.
Are you running? And you're sitting in my chair.
Yeah. Well, it's my chair on my show, and it's your chair on your show. We're fighting over the chairs, folks. So, Carol, thank you so much. It's been great. It's been fun.
Thank you, and congratulations. A great documentary.
Right. Thanks again. Take care.
Thanks.